3.5 hours. True. So we had to cut. In a perfect world, we would have liked to get to 2 hours. It's a goal that we think it's kind of hard to hold your bladder for some people longer than 2 hours. But that's as close as we got. We got close, but not there, and we cut a lot. And we kind of ran out of this just stuff. We just don't want to cut any of this stuff. We love it.
I thought, running through stuff from the keynote, I want to talk about the Mac first. Because not just that yesterday was a very strong day for the Mac on software, on laptop hardware, on desktop hardware, but in the recent months with discussions we've had and your announcements about the Mac Pro, I feel like the Mac, not that it's in a different place, but it's certainly in a different place perception-wise now than a year ago. I thought, here's one thing, I would just throw this off the bat, I thought that the Mac stuff alone yesterday would have made a pretty good Macworld Expo keynote back in the day.
Hi guys, it's Adam here. I wanted to vlog for a second. Let's make sure this angle looks good first. Does that work? I think that works. I a lot of you, I'm putting my feet up, a lot of you are probably, oh, my Apple shirt now. A lot of you are probably tired of vlogs from me. Maybe, I don't really know, maybe. But I don't have a podcast, and my blog lately is really suffering. And it's not for the normal reasons that people have blogs that suffer. It's not due to social media, and it's not due to video creation taking up so much of my time. In fact, producing videos, despite the huge amount of content that I send you all every week, producing videos is actually, it's probably a third of the work. To sit down and write a blog post that would take you 15 minutes to read takes about an hour. A video, on the other hand, is 15 minutes of capture, 20 minutes of capture, 10 minutes of editing, and then I publish. But as I wrote my blog a couple weeks ago, and I've been blogging since the late 90s, it's just what I've always done. Lately, I've had serious issues with my right wrist. Carpal tunnel, tendonitis, whatever you want to call it. It's from years of writing, and it's severely, it's crippled me because I have to type for a living at my desk, and when I'm done with that, I almost take the evening off and recuperate until the next day when I go back to typing at my desk again. And it is, it's really frustrating. And I've done a lot of steps to alleviate it, but I think in the next decade, I will need to do something, pretty severe, which is to get surgery or something on my wrist. That's on me though, and I hope everyone here likes reading. I get about 50,000 people a month reading my blog, and that's with minimal effort from me. And that's pretty good. On YouTube, I'm getting 60,000 views per month, 150,000 minutes. So everyone, on average, watches the video 2 to 5 minutes, which is fine. That's okay. And the average view is kind of all the videos. So 2-minute videos, they watch the whole thing. A 30-minute video, they watch 2 minutes. 2 minutes of it. It all kind of works out. So yeah, the blog is smaller than YouTube, but mostly because I don't cross-post it. When I used to put videos on YouTube and then blog the video. I put an intro text, a little explanation, some photos. The video is an accompaniment, and then over time, discovery on YouTube, Google, when you search Google for something, how an oil change in a Golf R, the first 3 results are going to be YouTube videos. And then you're going to see a couple of links, and it's usually like, these shitty CMS sites like eHow or, I don't know what all the references that I have are old school Web 2.0 stuff, but you get the point. It's all these little dumb, listicles, or not listicles, but you got to click next 10 times to get to the whole oil change, as opposed to them just putting it on one single page because they want you to see 10 pages of ads. I'm way off topic from what I was going to talk about here, but in short, the vlogging is fun, but deep down I'm a writer, and I miss writing a lot. If I take a week off, I can bang out a couple hours of writing, and then I'm incapacitated again. It's really frustrating. But today's video, I started with the talk show over there. The Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference kicked off yesterday. Kicked off Monday. It's now Thursday. There's a lot going on at work lately. And they kick off with an event where they talk about what's going on in Apple. And these get a lot of press coverage. Even non-geeks, non-tech people, they know what Apple's up to. It's just it'll hit all the news outlets and such, and blogs and that kind of stuff. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to sort of encapsulate my relationship with Apple over the last 25 years. As briefly as I know how, just because I find that just so. I had a good time, by the way, recording this for the VW Q&A I did. It was like a half-hour long video, and I enjoyed it, and I knew no one watched the whole thing, but I really enjoyed making it because I had a lot to say, and I'm so happy that I said a lot of that. And I've been thinking hard about, I wanted to write 5,000 to 10,000 words about my relationship with Apple over the years, and I just don't have the stamina to do it, and I really hope that I'm able to one day put that into written form, because written form is just so much more expressive. It's not as creative, but it's more expressive, and your words can be chosen more deliberately. Whereas a vlog, it's less edited, but it doesn't. You don't get to capture some of the nuance that you wanted to capture, and I don't want to do reshoots. I'm not doing reshoots. And my wrist will flame up if I'm trying to do jump cuts, and I'm moving over here and trying to make the vlog interesting. So here we go. As those of you that aren't geeks, you can tune out or something. Everyone on the channel that knows I'm an Apple, a Mac user. I think a lot of you know I'm an Apple fanboy. I think so, based on some of the content in the past. I like the Belgian video that's probably got posted today or yesterday. And if you're watching this and you go through my videos and you go back 3 weeks and you see the video in Brussels and you're like, holy fuck, 3 weeks ago he did this video, and then you'll realize that, oh, Adam has have a massive backlog of videos. I have 12 videos right now that aren't even posted. So, and I post them in the order they were uploaded. So that's that. So, big Apple fanboy, and we should go back before Apple though, because I always had an affinity towards Apple's brand. I don't actually know when I was first exposed to Apple, but I always knew I wanted one. I knew that I couldn't afford one, but I knew I wanted an Apple computer. I think my first physical touching, putting my fingers on the keyboard of an Apple was probably an Apple II, Apple IIGS, Apple IIe, back in grade school. I think I was in 4th grade. And we used to play Number Munchers, Oregon Trail, and a couple other video games. Once a week we get half an hour computer time. I loved it. I was in my element. And one day we had to, there was some kind of a fire drill or something, and the classes got merged, and I had to share my 30 minutes with another kid. And I was so pissed off because I'd just gotten into the game, and then the teacher rang a bell, and we had to swap out, and I was so pissed off. I'm like, why don't we have one of these at the house? And my mom did. We weren't a rich family at all. We were extremely poor, and I mean that sincerely. That's not just a thing. my mom worked at the post office, and my dad was a carpenter. But like, you know, he'd build decks, he would install garage doors, handyman stuff, and that's what they did. That's how they provided for myself and my sisters. And my mom once bought, I think through QVC or one of those kind of rent to own, you pay 400 payments of $40. She bought an HP Pentium 1 66 megahertz machine with a 512 megabyte hard drive and maybe 32 megs of RAM, running Windows 3.0. It had a skin over it though. It was like a skin that had a very graphical. It looked like eWorld, if you remember eWorld. And you click through and like, I want to make a document. And then it would open the document. You know, you kind of briefly see a little bit of the Windows operating system or program manager, and then it would bring up WordPerfect or whatever was preloaded. It was very insulating. I upgraded the RAM. Remember, it was 5th grade or 4th grade. I upgraded the RAM and installed Windows 95 on the machine, and that's when I kind of got that open. I know my dad would get so pissed off because he would call the house and he'd never be able to get through. He never could call us anymore. I think he even, after much protest and like, you know, literally beating me up a few times. He wasn't a violent man, but everyone beat their kids in the 90s. He eventually like bought mom a cell phone so he can call her while I was on the internet, and he never admitted to that. But it was like, if I was going to be on the internet all the time, I'm just going to get a Nextel, you know, those little beep 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 things back in the day. People used to radio each other on their Nextels. They ended up getting 2 Nextels if they talked that way. And it was there that I actually, that era, I started going to the bookstore and reading the magazines about Apple, and I subscribed to Mac Mall and PC Mall and Small Dog Electronics, their monthly mails, and I would like, or you know, periodicals in the mail, and I would just lust after these amazing computers. And I remember when Johnny Ive's design team, their first sort of breakout machine where Steven told Johnny, this is yours, do what you want with it. It was the Pismo Blue Power Mac G3 with the white translucent G3 on the side of the case. You pull a little thing and the whole thing goes wide open. You can work on the machine right there, close it back up. It looks as good on the desk as it does on the floor. It's not hidden behind something. It's meant to be displayed like a piece of art. And while translucent plastic has gone out of style, it was so cool. And it was around that time that my dad had a martial arts student named George, who gave us a bunch of old computers, me a bunch of old computers to play with. They didn't work anymore. He gave me a Mac LC3, a Mac Plus, and a Red Hat Linux box with a couple of you know, A+, C+ books, and probably like the Norton, you know, How to Fix Your PC book, the Bible, basically. And I just studied that stuff. I loved the Apple hardware. The OS was horribly lacking behind Linux and Windows. It just did not have, it just felt like a toy. It really did. And it was great for publishing, but it just had a very toy-like aspect to it where you couldn't really take it seriously. Unless your workflow, like if you were a Quark person and did pre-press, and you needed font managers, and it worked really well for the printing industry. But it just wasn't a machine for business. At least, and I was a kid, but I could tell. I could tell that Windows was the machine for people that got things done. They were boring people. They were accountants, but they got things done on Windows. And then Linux was for the enterprise security geeks, the server geeks that wanted to power the rest of the machines that we all used, and they knew the ins and outs. And I started saving money, and eventually, water. No, I felt like a dick though, because he loves that thing. Sorry, buddy. I started saving. I was working a bunch of really odd jobs. I was cutting lawns. This is in Florida. I was cutting lawns. I had started a computer consulting company where I was helping small businesses how to use their computers and set them up and stuff. Thank you. And sorry, buddy. So I was making spare money on the side, cutting grass. I was fixing computers. Keep in mind, this was 1999. I started writing. I had a LiveJournal account. I started writing. I was building websites for the middle school I was going to, and just that kind of stuff. You know, I was a kid into technology. I probably broke more than I fixed, but I was doing my best to sort of get into that world. And then in the year 2000, my grandmother took the money that I had saved up, and then she matched it, and for Christmas bought me an iBook G3, 500 megahertz, no, 600 megahertz, 12-inch. It was the Rage 128 graphics, 2 USB ports, FireWire, Ethernet, VGA or DVI out, headphone jack, 1 speaker, it was 2 speakers, it was 2 speakers, and I think the hard drive was 20 gigabytes. And before she bought me that computer, I was, even back then I was hoarding content, and I had downloaded all the Apple commercials and Apple events and stuff, and I was watching every Steve Jobs announcement and all that great stuff, and I would watch the iBook introduction video every day after school, wishing I could buy one. I think they were like $11.99 or something. And I got that computer, and I was so excited. If I remember, I'm going to put a video or a picture in here of me with that computer. I was so stoked. And after Christmas break, I went into school. I was a freshman in high school at the time, and I had already had a Tangerine G3 iBook 400 megahertz machine, the old porta potty looking clamshells with a handle. I had one of those on loan from the school because I was in their web design team and their yearbook team, so I was using that. But I happily turned that in and had my new iBook. It was amazing, and I was writing every day. I had started a website, a blog, a real blog. Like, you know, I was making money. I was telling clients to pay me through PayPal, and I was using the PayPal money to pay for, you know, shared hosting plans and stuff. And I was starting my own kind of web admin work, and I progressively improved that to the point where in 2003 I had saved up enough money selling advertisements. I was reviewing iPod cases, I was reviewing bags, I was reviewing keyboard covers and cameras and headphones, and I had advertisements on my blog, and I loved it. It was great. Every day I'd get home from school and I would blog just about technology. And I made some friends in the industry, so I'm backing a little bit here. I made some friends in the industry, the guys that started Mac Teens, the guys that started different districts. There was a ton of, it's like at a time where the web, it was cheap enough to get shared hosting plans. It was free to download P Machine or well, maybe not WordPress yet. WordPress was probably a little bit of a delay. But we had Movable Type and P Machine or Expression Engine. Drupal was a thing back then too. It's still around. And these kids my age, all around the country, all of us decided at the same time that we wanted to write about Apple. And I think it's the democratization of technology. We had access to the internet, to computers, to HTML, you know, WYSIWYG tools, and we just started writing. And our content wasn't great, but it was consistent enough that and the Mac space was dominated by IDG and the big technology companies that happened to also have PC and Linux publications. So they weren't Mac fans. Like the employees of Macworld and Mac Addict and all those places, okay, they were Mac fans, but their employers were not. And there was something powerful, the independent voice. So this was at a time when Mac Minute was a huge thing. Mac NN, Think Secret was big. I mean, this was a new age of Macintosh blogging, and I saved enough money, and my mom bought me a plane ticket. It kind of matched what I had saved up for the hotel and everything, and I flew to San Francisco in 2003 with a press badge for Macworld, and that conference, and I'm taking it's first week of January, so we're coming back from Christmas break, and I'm taking another week off work instead of school instead of going to school. That was like the second the second chapter. The first chapter, well, third maybe. The first chapter was getting that first computer and dicking around on it. The second chapter was, and my dad's friend gave me his computer. The second chapter was getting the iBook in 2001 or 2000. And then the next chapter was 2004 or 2003 when I went to Macworld. It was life changing. Here I am in the region of the world where the internet was invented, where silicon was invented, where Moore's law was invented, where FreeBSD was a thing, and became OS 10 and like powers, you know, a billion iOS devices now and OS 10 devices. It was remarkable. It really felt like I should have been here all along. And so here I am, 16 or 17 years old, staying at the Serrano Hotel in San Francisco with a guy named Craig Contardi. He was a 40-something-year-old IT guy. We had met on an internet forum, on a Mac forum. And back in the day, Mac forums like SpyMac and ThinkSecret and Apple Insider, I think Mac Rumors was around. They had some forums. Mac forums, there was like 10,000 people total, and they were all member of all the same forums. And there was the iPod was out, but it wasn't this. It was just building momentum, so that the Apple Macintosh world was small, and it might not be believable today, but I had, even my parents, I had no issue at all with splitting a hotel room in San Francisco with a 40-year-old married dude at 16. And he treated me like an adult. We had a blast. It was both of our first Macworlds. He went a couple of years since then. His work was paying for his ticket, and he wanted to upgrade his hotel room, so we split the cost, so that way work paid for like half of his hotel and I paid for the other half. That was a blast. And that started something else, which was I started a blog called Macworld Bound. It was a blog that focused on Macworld events, planning, places to stay, places to eat. If you had never been to Macworld before, you would go to Macworld Bound and you would know exactly what to do. And it complemented my other blogs, Daily Tech Talk and a personal like blog like I have now. And those were kind of a network, and I ended up forming an LLC for Daily Tech Talk and put everything under that umbrella. And you know, my mom did it for me because I wasn't 18 yet, and it all kind of went from there. And from that point forward, I went to Boston Macworld in 2004, and then I just kept going to Macworld every single year since then. And then I ended up going to a few of the Apple special events that were not conferences; they were Apple hosted, basically. And this was kind of chapter 3. Chapter 3 was planning all year to be in San Francisco for Macworld. Sponsors always paid for it. I started hosting events. It got to where in 2006 was the best. No, 07 was probably the best Macworld, San Francisco. Not only because it was the year that Steve introduced the MacBook Air and the iPhone and the Apple TV, called iTV at the time. That was huge. I mean, those three products are a big part of Apple's identity today. The MacBook Air is their highest selling computer year after year. The iPhone, I don't need to say anything about that. And Apple TV is, you know, it's a new product category for them, and it grows every year. And now they're doing a lot more content deals. So, but that's not why this was a great year. Because to be honest, in the Apple space at the time, it was, you'd go to Macworld and the expo floor would be like 75 booths that were just selling shitty fucking iPod cases and iPod speakers and iPod headphones and iPod compatible toilets where you dock your iPod behind you in the bowl and it plays music through your ass. It was ridiculous. The shitty iPod, and as hardcore Mac users, we still had a place at Macworld because almost all the sessions were still for us. but the attendees, the expo attendees, the talks, usually the big addresses and all the events and stuff, it's just the iPod was such a cash cow that we felt marginalized. We felt like Apple no longer cares for us. I mean, from 2004 to 2007, it didn't really feel like every time Steve got up on stage, it was music and iPod, music and iPod. Like, where are we in this? And luckily, in 2004, I found the Mac User Group, or MUG, the MUG University. It's a day-long conference before Macworld starts, and it's a place for Mac User Group members to come together and talk about their world, and usually that involves the Mac. Today it's changed a little more, but MUGs are still mostly Mac focused. Yes, MUGs still exist, and they're great places. So if you want to check it out, there are some MUG chapter in your area. Actually, I always want to say Bob Levitas. If you Google search for MUG event calendar, there's a really great guy who interviewed me a few times. I was on his podcast a few times back in the day, like 2005. He still has the MUG event calendar. He updates it every month, and it's a lot of great events. So, I'm talking to the wrong people probably. You guys probably don't even use Macs, but anyway. So, MUG University was a thing, and that's where I met Steve Wozniak in 2007. I just loved it. It was our way to escape from the iPod hysteria. And when Apple released the iPhone, we all knew it was going to be a big deal. We knew it would surpass the iPod. We were all pretty congratulatory towards what Steve had done. But at the time, it did feel like this is yet another nail in the coffin for Mac. And it hasn't really, the Mac is still alive. And you look at the Mac in 2007 to the Mac today, a 10-year gap. Sure, monumental differences in the Macintosh world, but it was definitely going to be different from that point on. So, I should digress though, because honestly, that's not why 07 was a big deal. 07 was a big deal because it was the culmination of all of my years as a blogger about technology and a blogger about Macworld, and I started putting events together in 2005. And 07 was a whirlwind. I had more sponsors than ever. All my sponsorship and travel stuff was already booked 6 months prior. I had my media badge, so I got to get into the keynote early to see Steve after not having a media badge the year before. And the reason why the media badges got so hard to come by is because the iPod grew. The kind of media that wanted to attend Apple events diversified. It was no longer about the Macs. It was music journalists and Fortune and Rolling Stone and all these companies that were brand new to covering Apple just kind of came out of nowhere. So media badges became harder to come by, but in 07 I had a media badge, which was great. I'll talk more about the event if I remember to talk about it. But the starting Sunday, I held my annual tour of the city, and it was 40 of us walking around San Francisco. I was taking them to one of my favorite spots. And again, I'm not from here, but I'd been there enough to know where to take people that were tourists, at least. And then Monday we had I think we had a kickoff dinner. We all met at the Apple Store and then went to have dinner somewhere, and it was per fixed price per person kind of thing. And then Tuesday morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, welcome to the Apple Store in San Francisco, the old one, not the new one, for the annual keynote line, where if you've never been to the keynote before and you don't know where to line up or where to queue, meet us here and we'll all walk to the Moscone Center, Moscone West together, and we'll all queue up, and then I will leave with my friend, whoever my friend was that year. It changed every year, and we'd go get donuts and coffee from a place I knew was open down the block at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then feed everyone. It was sponsored by some random company. So I walked down to the Apple Store, and there's like 50 people at 4 o'clock in the morning at the Apple Store waiting for this event that I host. We all walked down. It was just a massive troop of us. I bring coffee and donuts. I always wear my tie on keynote day, and then Wednesday night was my annual Macworld party at Swig. We rented the whole Swig bar out, $2,500. First 2 drinks were free, I think. We had live music. It was a total blast. I'll have to, if I remember, I'll put the flyer in here somewhere. But my girlfriend at the time, Laura, who's a wonderful girl, I still keep in touch with her. She still lives in San Francisco. Made this great flyer, and we did 1 or 2 more events. I think we did a Friday night Redwood Room event where it's a little more fancy. And at the time, I should add, I wasn't 21 yet, but since I was 18, from 18 to 21, I was doing these mackerel events, and because I would have like tabs at these bars, I could drink. No one ever questioned, this guy coming in and giving us $2 to $4 grand for a party here. No one questioned the fact that I wasn't 21, so I drank, of course, and I think there's probably a statute of limitations for Swig and Redwood Room being sued or fined or something by ABC, but it's been 10, 12 years. So it was just a week of events. It was a week of events centered around my blog and my brand, and I loved it. I enjoyed kind of being that connector for people that had never been to the area before. So in 2007, I told Laura that I want to move to San Francisco. We moved pretty quickly, sold everything down to 2 suitcases and a dry bag, and moved across country. And it was amazing. So that was chapter 3. It was hard, but when we moved, the bank thing all happened, and we couldn't find work. And one little anecdote, which I love these kind of stories personally, is that we moved June 1st. I graduated from high school in May of 2004. I didn't turn 18 until August of 2004. And when I turned 18, I got not a CDL, but like a commercial driver's license for a larger truck, but it wasn't a C. I couldn't drive like a huge truck. And I was working in a lumber yard, of all things, delivering like Anderson windows and doors to job sites. Because I did this job because it was 4 a.m. to like 2 p.m. and I can get off and actually blog. Because at 2 p.m. Eastern, it's only 11 a.m. in California, so news is just still breaking, so I could still be a blogger in the afternoon. And it was a great schedule for me. I was in my truck somewhere in Stark, Florida, Hastings, Stark area. Got a phone call from a 415 number, and they said, "Am I speaking to Adam?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "Well, this is so-and-so. I'm a recruiter at Apple." And this doesn't happen very often, but we received your name and number from 3 people within the company as referrals. I said, for what? And because I honestly thought it was like a cease and desist, because I wrote about Apple rumors a lot, so I thought they were going to hand me a cease and desist, tell me to shut the fuck up. But instead, she said, "No, we have a store opening March 21st, and we're wondering if you'd like to interview for a manager role." Now, half a year prior, I was a high school student, and now I am living this glamorous life at $9.50 an hour, driving a box truck, delivering windows and doors to job sites in Florida during the day, and blogging at night. And here is someone from California calling to offer me a job. And so I went and interviewed in Jacksonville a month later. They gave me a job offer. It was $14 an hour, which felt like an upgrade at the time. It's retail, but I was a key holder, so I was assistant manager. I would close 1 to 2 nights a week, which is count money, lock up. I'd open 1 day a week, so it was a pretty big role, I guess. No prior retail experience, no prior sales experience. Went through 6 weeks of Apple training, which was amazing. It was a big investment. They did it for all the retail employees. They may not do that anymore, but they did it for all the retail employees at the time. And I worked there for about a year. I didn't stick it out because I didn't have a commanding leadership role. Everyone that worked there below me was 5 or 10 years older than me, so I had no respect from anyone. I didn't really earn the respect. I knew everything about the products, but I wasn't a great manager. So I kind of phased out of there. But it was a wonderful opportunity. I don't have much to say about it really, but it was great. So that's that chapter. Maybe my heart wasn't into it as much because I was a little bit bummed that Apple was anti-blogging, so I ended up creating a fake alias and sold my blog to another guy, and he was the blogger for a year, even though it was me the whole time. But I kind of ghost blogged about Mac stuff, and I didn't do anything that was gonna. I didn't talk about anything that I learned in my day job. That was a complete separation, but it was risky. But I loved blogging so much, and I still ended up going to Macworld the following January because I happened to be fired right before then, so that was perfect timing for me. Yeah, so that's kind of in the middle of the Mac worlds, but I wanted to tell it its own separate story. After that, I ended up working for an IT company. I moved up through the ranks, so from 2006 to 2008, when I moved to San Francisco, I was the Mac guy. It was a growing area for small business clients, especially design and cartography and blueprint. We had some architecture firms that were using Macs, so CAD stuff. So that was a big growth area. So I was the only guy that could work on Macs. So that was great. And then in San Francisco, I worked on startup stuff, but I didn't turn my back on the Macintosh. I still did Macworld until it became iWorld, and I kind of bowed out of that whole thing. It just, once again, iWorld. Mac is dead, iPhone, iPod is the future. Then in 2010, a recruiter from TomTom called me, and I moved to cross country to New Hampshire, where I live now. So I've been here for 7 years this September. While at TomTom, I have been a part of work for Apple. It's not a secret that TomTom uses Apple Maps, or other way around, Apple uses TomTom Maps. And why I don't feel like I'm going to get fired by saying that. If you go to Apple Maps and you do about, you'll see. So there you go. So it's not a secret. See how slow the focus is on this thing though? It's ridiculous, isn't it? So I've been one of the people that's worked really closely with Apple while I was at TomTom. I'm still at TomTom. I've now been promoted to other things, which is cool. I liked working with Apple a lot. They're cool people. You know, they've got the West Coast vibe going on. They are really hard workers, really smart people work there, and it was cool. It was cool to. I went to California a bunch 3 or 4 years ago. I was going there every month for things, and that was great. It was great to be back in the fray of the Apple world. I personally, though, this is just my opinion. I don't think I want to work for Apple again. When you care so much about a company that you're still in 2017 are waiting in line for the iPhone, or taking the day off when the new operating system comes out to play with it, or writing about Macs, still nothing that interferes. I don't write about maps. I write about Apple stuff because I can't mix those two. I don't know when to work at Apple again because when I was there, it definitely conflicted. It was a clash for me because I loved Apple so much, but then working for them demystified things, and it was a little bit more real than I wanted it to be. I kind of like being on the other side of the glass in that way. I think that's it for my Apple stuff, though. Only because there's so much more I can say about like the fact that I've owned every iPod, every iPhone, every generation of Mac since 2000. Even retroactively, I'd go back and buy like a titanium PowerBook just so I owned one. My whole house is powered by HomeKit. I don't use any Google products at all. None. The only reason I have an Alexa unit, cancel, is because Apple didn't have a smart speaker, now they do, so I can buy that and get rid of this piece of shit. I love Apple. I upgraded the Golf R primarily from the old Golf R because of CarPlay. So everything I do in my life is kind of driven by Apple's products and their experiences and their Apple stores and what they stand for. I got into photography because of Apple and Aperture. I got into video editing because of Final Cut Pro. Everything I've done has been kind of driven by something that Apple makes. It excited me back in the day to watch Lord of the Rings and see the Apple logo in the end credits because Apple Shake, an old software that they don't make anymore, Apple Shake was used for composition and making all these beautiful scenes come to life out of a blue screen. And like, I loved Lord of the Rings because there was an Apple logo at the end. And actually, I'll leave you guys with one last story, which is in 2003, I was a member of SpyMac, and rest in peace for sure. and X3 was a username on there. It was the only girl that would participate in like the really hardcore geeky topics, and she was a computer designer. She was getting out of high school and then just accepted to Pittsburgh Technical Institute for computer graphic design, and super hardcore nerd. I mean, really super nerd, and you know, a lot of the girls were either nerdy and too afraid to show it, or didn't give a shit about the computer stuff. So X3 was a cool girl. She used to run drp.net, Daily Random Picture, and she and her friend Des would do a picture every single day. It was random, fully random. Like, they'd just be at Eden Park. They'd be at Eden Park. It's a West PA restaurant, doing crazy shit at like 1 o'clock in the morning. They'd be at a live concert. They'd be sitting at their computers. It's just random shit. And it was a photo blog, and those don't really exist anymore. You know, Instagram is everyone's photo blog now. So we became friends. We talked a lot on iChat. I had my iBook in school. She had her PowerBook in school. We were always on iChat together. iChat was a predecessor to Messages for Mac. And then she started doing videos for Rever. And then at one point, YouTube recruited her with a really nice CPM deal to start making YouTube videos. But she had to exclusively stop using Rever. And X3 became, or who everyone knows now as iJustine. And I remember I met her for the first time at Macworld 2007. Again, great. That year was wonderful. Met her at Macworld 2007. I remember she was in touch with my friends, Liana, and who was a producer for Pixel Core, which is Alex Lindsay's company. Back when they were doing a lot of stuff with Leo Laporte's This Week in Tech podcast and Netcast, because he didn't want to call things podcasts because he thought it was too Apple-y, so he called them Netcasts. Put her in touch with them, so she started doing stuff with Alex Lindsay, and then I was one of the first guys that I was watching the first stream of Justin TV back in the day, donating to my friend Scott Beal, who runs Laughing Squid from Florida. I was talking to those guys. I bought them a round of drinks through PayPal, and I remember the first thing I thought was, Justine, you should do a live cast. So I got her in touch with the Justin TV people, and that kind of like, that did more for her career too. And that, you know, I didn't negotiate for them, but I definitely put people together, and like, now I look at these people like Leo Laporte and Liana, who's way behind the scenes person, and Justin Kahn, who recently sold his company, Justin TV, aka Twitch, to Amazon for like $3 billion. And you look at what Justine is doing with her life, and I think like, no remorse. It's amazing that these people stuck it out in the cities and worked their ass off and are now all millionaires. And here I am in New Hampshire, happy as hell to have my lakefront property, working at TomTom, just living life very easy. You know, it's relaxing here. But to be a part of that world, to know that Apple or the Mac brought us all together, it's something that keeps me loyal to the company beyond any rationalization. And it only is strengthened by Tim Cook's leadership and his work in environmental, human rights, and privacy and security for their customers. You know, Apple is the gatekeeper to all of my data, and they give a shit about my data. They give a shit about the recyclability of their products. They give a shit about the environment. They give a shit about me and my dollar. And when I buy a product from them, I'm their customer, not an advertiser, not another corporation that wants to use my data to leverage it. I trust and love Apple without any faltering at all, and everything is compounded by how they have affected my life, the company, from the money I make, from the way I spend my time, from the way I create for you guys, from the way I live. They set my travel agenda by me wanting to go to all these Apple stores that I haven't seen before. The Brussels store was gorgeous. By the friends I have, I just yeah, I love it a lot. So I feel like I've wasted too much of your time. I am really thrilled that you guys, those of you that watched, are still here. But I'll leave you guys with a shot of Mr. Porter, because he is so cute over there and doing his thing. This camera's very hot, by the way. Hi, Porter. Aw, Porter. How about you want to go outside? Yeah, he wants to go outside. You ready? Yeah. Let's go. Let's go, Porter. Come on.